Hi, welcome to another episode of 600 Seconds in HRTech. I'm Divya Iyer, and we're at the Red Thread Summit in Snowbird, Utah, and I have Mark Hanson, who's VP of Skill Strategy at Lightcast. So, Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so get the pleasure of leading our skill strategy here at Lightcast. Been here 8 years, and so get the pleasure of running through go-to-market strategy, new products, new consulting solutions. Do a lot of in our partnerships team, so get to wear a lot of hats all around skills. What are people trying to do? Unique perspective. I was a customer for 5 years. Used to run people analytics at United Health Group. So been around the Lightcast data and all of the wonderful skill and talent intelligence for over a decade now.
Yeah, I'm sure it helps to bring the customer hat back into this position.
Yeah. It does, yes. Yeah. It's a good perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So Mark, Lightcast recently expanded its global data coverage from 41 countries to understand 165 countries right now. So I'd be curious to understand what's driving that push. Yeah. And you're also in markets where you don't necessarily have the same depth of data as you do in the United States or in the UK. Yeah. So how are you ensuring that you're delivering reliable data to your customers in these markets as well?
Yeah, it's really just driven off of customer demand. The more multinationals we work with and global companies, they are just saying, we are looking at every market for talent. Talent is shrinking in different pockets for different types of occupations and things. So they're looking everywhere they can. So really just driving towards getting a true global data set. And so that's what we're pursuing is getting great intelligence wherever we can. And then working on the depth in each one of those countries, because not everyone has a mature sort of data gathering process from a government side, or even just the vendors that are there. Like we're very spoiled when we have LinkedIn and a whole bunch of equivalents, and we have wonderful job boards that kind of summarize everything really well. So really focus on going deep in each one of those countries, understanding the culture, understanding the language, understanding who are the tech players there that we can partner with and be able to bring in more reliable data.
Yeah. And so are customers able to see what extent you have coverage in these markets?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're very transparent with kind of the three big data sets that we focus on are profile data sets. So think people, online profiles, job posting data, so job advertisements around the globe, and then government data sources. And so we track for each country kind of the depth and estimated coverage of each one of those data sets and make sure that the customers know, okay, when you see larger estimates and ranges, we have less reliability because there's just sparser data. But when you have tighter ranges and there's more assurances there for quality and validity of data, then we go deeper. So yeah, everything is on our website and on our data tab, so they can see exactly where we have it and what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's going to be more important, as we've been talking about in this conference about trust in data and how that's going to be really important, and making sure you're bringing your customers along in the same journey with you. So I think that's a pretty important thing. Yeah. So I know that Lightcast recently acquired Simply and Skill Collective last year. So you're trying to move beyond data and taxonomy and now into kind of consulting as well. So can you tell us a little bit about what was the thinking behind that move?
Yeah. Again, another customer-driven request. Everybody was trying to build good skill data foundations around their job architecture. And they were saying, how do we deploy this? And how do we do the change management, the communication plans? And so we've had a consulting team for a very long time, but we weren't as versed in kind of that broader advisory and skill transformation. And so we started partnering with Skill Collective a long time ago when they first started. And they started subbing on almost all of our big enterprise projects. And we're like, why don't they just become part of the family? Because every customer is needing this just assistance to kind of help navigate the strategy. How do we phase this? Where do we do the right pilots? How do we think about the change that needs to happen in the adoption? And where is data flowing? How do we get this data actually speak to us? Because at the end of the day, a skill transformation project is a data project, and we're building that foundation of data. But then once we have that, what do we do with it? And so that's where that last mile comes in, and then helping them connect their tech stack. We partner with over 220 HRTech and learning tech partners. And so we get a lot of questions like, hey, you partner with all of these, which ones should we use for these different use cases? And we say, well, we have to be Switzerland because we partner with all of them, but based on your use cases, we can make recommendations. And so we love to be in the mix of being that trusted advisor, kind of that third party voice to help give them assurance that they're moving down the right path, their investments are going to be worth it. It's a huge benefit to be an enrichment layer and kind of that skills intelligence layer behind the scenes, so we can help empower existing technology that they've already purchased, whether it's Workday or SAP, where they're making big investments in there. How do we enrich that data? How do we help put that data to work so it actually can improve the employee experience and improve the business outcomes that they're looking to drive?
Fantastic. Thank you. And I take it your customers have been loving it.
They have, yes. It's nice when you can come in and not try to sell a whole nother platform that requires a lot of change management. We're like, nope, we're an enrichment layer behind the scenes. We can partner really well with you.
Yeah. And this must change the conversation you're having with enterprise buyers as well, having that consulting capability.
Yes, it does. Yeah, because many of them are, right at square one. There's a lot of talk of AI and where everything's advancing, but a lot of our customers are back at square one, just trying to understand their own data. Their job architectures are a mess. They have sparse data everywhere. Yeah. And so when they can say, where do we start with skills? Where do we start with looking at work and tasks? And where do we start to apply this data in the right spots? We can help coach them, do the executive workshops for education. We can build kind of a deep discovery with them to say, here's the pockets of where you're going to have the most benefit. Here's where you can be skills powered. Here's an area where you really don't need to be skills powered. You just need to be skills aware, and let's plug in skills in a couple strategic spots. And so we kind of help them level set, like becoming skills based is actually a long journey and a nearly impossible journey. So let's break it down into the pieces where there's value going to be created, that the business can feel that value, the employees, the managers can feel that. That's where we focus on. So that advisory component helps give them comfort that their plan is on track, that we can build a proper strategy with them and roll that out effectively.
Yeah, I think you've already answered this, but we're seeing a lot, like one of the things that Danny and Stacia have been talking about in the megatrends is about how data has become incredibly important in strategic infrastructure. And so you're helping your customers as well with this through kind of connecting the dots and the consulting as well. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, because there's always a data foundation component. And luckily with large amounts of labor intelligence, we have benchmark data and we can gather in insights that say, we can get you jump started, but we want to validate that internally. Right. And we want to backfill this into your existing data that you already have so that we can enrich that. And because any AI tool that you're doing needs that anchoring of good data for the AI to actually work and not hallucinate. So how do we empower those engines from the machine learning and different Gen AI tools that they're using? How do we empower that with good validated data that can help all of their systems work better and then create a better experience for the employees as they interact with, whether it's a learning system or career pathing and looking at talent marketplace data, things like that.
Okay. So last question. So every company that we're speaking to, every vendor has an AI story.
Yeah.
How does Lightcast differentiate itself from the other vendors?
Yeah, well, being around since 2000, we've had AI embedded for a very long time. Old school machine learning techniques all the way through, because we're classifying and processing billions of data points every day. But yeah, we're really going deep. The next foray for us is MCP and looking at how do we embed this in the AI workflows that our customers, their preferred platforms, being able to get that intelligence where they need it. So really focusing on how do we make our data as portable as possible, build in our models so that they can have access to a lot of the different intelligence frameworks that we use, and really going big in like things like Snowflake and Databricks and all of the cloud layers as well, because that's where a lot of our customers are processing data. So trying to say, we want your data to be enriched with really good labor market intelligence. So let's be as portable as possible and build into those data workflows where you have them.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing that.
I had a chance to chat with Mark Hanson at Red Summit in Utah. Mark is the VP of Skills Strategy at Lightcast, and we dug into a couple of things they've recently rolled out. So Lightcast has recently expanded their data footprint from 41 to 165 countries. That's a big deal because it gives organizations access to profile and job posting data and government data in markets where there's traditionally been less access. What makes us more valuable is that they're pretty transparent about their coverage. Mark says they focus on going deep into each country to understand its culture, language, even work with local tech players to see who they can partner with to bring in reliable data. This is great if you're an organization that needs to make people decisions in one of these markets and really requires better data. What I also like is that they're pretty upfront with their customers about the quality and the reliability. So you know where the data is stronger and where it's sparser. It really matters right now because we keep hearing how much trust between organizations and the vendors that they rely on is under pressure. Being clear about the limits of what you're offering builds far more trust than just plain blanket assurances. This also matters for high-risk decisions like scaling and location planning, because those kinds of bets are expensive to get wrong. Knowing just how good the data is that's driving these decisions helps organizations decide where to invest and where to hedge the risk or hold back, because the underlying data isn't as robust as it needs to be to support that decision. The other thing Lightcast is doing is building out consulting services to help customers with things like deployment and skills transformation. They built that capability through a couple of recent acquisitions, Simply and Skill Collective, and they say this is based on a lot of customer demand. Organizations that have built good skills data foundations want to know how to use that data in their skills transformation journey. It's again interesting because we're seeing more of this across the market. It tells us that vendors like Lightcast are seeing the industry moving away from just being a platform that you buy and implement yourself, and instead moving towards something like closer partnerships, working alongside customers towards a shared goal. Thanks to Mark for a great conversation at Summit. And that's it for this episode of 600 Seconds in HR Tech. We'll see you next time.